Lamidada, a village in Kalinchok rural municipality, Gorkha, was severely affected by the 2015 Gorkha earthquake. More than 1,300 households in the village were damaged. In April 2016, when Balioghar program reached the village to support reconstruction, 120 affected households were already reconstructed. Many more were planning to start soon. In absence of any technical assistance or supervision, construction of these houses was carried out by local masons, who were untrained in earthquake-resistant construction. As a result, these houses missed earthquake-resistant elements such as buttress walls and plinth bands.
We started our technical support activity in Lamidada about a year after the earthquake. We found that more than 100 houses had already been built but had missed plinth bands during the construction. If these houses were left as they were, they would be deemed non-compliant.
Not only did the houses fail to meet the requirements for financial support, but they were also unsafe. And while construction of additional buildings with the same deficiencies were avoided, these house owners were in a limbo. Questions whether or not they would be able to receive the government grant was prominent, yet unanswered. In the aftermath of 2015 Gorkha earthquake, for the reconstruction, an owner-driven reconstruction approach was implemented. House owners were facilitated with technical assistance, supervision, and inspection to ensure that the building regulations were met. The minimum technical requirements were formulated and guidelines were developed to standardize the assistance and inspection process. In about 1 year since its formation, the National Reconstruction Authority (NRA) had already developed most of the necessary policies and strategies to facilitate the reconstruction of private buildings and was expecting an escalation across the earthquake-affected areas. However, as reconstruction process began, many houses failed to meet the minimum requirements set forth. The reason? Information on these requirements were not widely propagated to the beneficiaries, and technical personnel themselves were unaware of the norms. Minor mistakes were being made. Slightly larger rooms or taller attic spaces were constructed to accommodate for the functional necessities of the house owners. In other cases, reinforcement bars were absent, and where they weren't, were of smaller sizes or placed in the wrong locations. On the other hand, inspection guidelines clearly stated that houses missing out on even a single requirement would be non-compliant. Hence, these houses were deemed ineligible to receive additional tranches of the reconstruction grant support. And they weren't small in number. In early 2017, several studies and field reports suggested that almost half of the constructed buildings did not fulfill all the requirements, a critical challenge to expedite the reconstruction process. Technical experts began probing into the issue, collecting field reports from various communities and moving out for field observations. In Lamidada, a joint technical team of Balioghar program and the NRA inspection team prepared a report on the situation that contributed to the discussions to come out with possible remedies. Thus, the Correction and Exception Manual was developed in May 2017, a series of technical guidelines for engineers and technical personnel to either neglect certain non-compliance cases as exceptions or advise the house owners for necessary corrections to ensure compliance. The guideline was able to address a huge proportion of the existing non-compliant houses for required corrections and provided information to technical personnel for technical assistance, supervision, and inspection. Balioghar program, who had already contributed to raising alarm on the issue and during the development of the manual, then set out to implement the prescribed guidelines in its program areas.
We saw that similar cases were prevalent all across the earthquake-affected regions. So we supported in developing correction guidelines to address the issue. In places like Lamidara, we also help the local masons and the house owners in applying these correction techniques in their houses through on-site technical support and training.
The development of the Correction Exception Manual was a great boon to the beneficiaries in Lamidara. A joint technical team was formed and set out to interact house owners and masons to provide information on the process. To ensure transfer of information, demonstration construction was planned at one house, where local masons worked in batches learning the process. These masons then implemented the correction techniques in all the remaining houses with continuous assistance and supervision. In June 2018, merely a year after the development of the manual, all 120 houses had done the required corrections and were deemed compliant and received the remainder of the government tranches. The successful implementation of the corrections through community participation also shed light on the effectiveness of the manual in the field. Post-disaster reconstruction and recovery is a dynamic process. Various facets need overview and consideration for success. Effective post-disaster recovery relies not only in development of required policies, but also a critical review on the efficacy and revisions based on the lessons from implementation. This principle was aptly realized in the post-earthquake reconstruction in Nepal, evident with the prompt action in resolving issues of non-compliance through the development and enforcement of the Correction and Exception Manual. The current achievement in private housing reconstruction with almost 100% compliance is the result of such actions. The NRA further developed and revised many other policies to aid the reconstruction and recovery, which has contributed significantly to streamlining an otherwise dynamic process and in achieving the goals of Build Back Better.